registered in 1998. Mr. Nangle represents the 17th Middlesex District, my district, which consists of Chenchman and areas of Lowell. Please welcome Dave Nangle.
I have a question for the city council. Is it too late to submit a name for city manager? I nominate Mike Geary right now, my good friend. And Mike, I want to thank you and Eileen for allowing me to speak today. And I really particularly want to thank you both for putting me in the program right ahead of the professional comedian. Who is going to want to stand here and listen to me when you have, maybe he's not here, Mike McDonald, maybe he isn't here yet. So I'll be very quick and very brief. But there is one thing, Mike, that I have to do. I think Bernie did that. But actually, it won't be the same. And Mike, I hope you don't mind. It's just not the same for me anymore here at the St. Patrick's Day breakfast. I just feel much more at home. I miss this man. I miss our daily phone calls. I miss our weekly dinners, our annual vacation. So Eileen, would you mind if I just do something here for a second? I don't have a phone, but I just feel much better. City Manager Bernie Lynch is still here in the room. Where is Bernie? Right out here. No, please, Mike. I'd rather have you as the manager. My new best friend, Kevin Murphy, sitting down at the end there, talking, you're out, I can tell you that. And I also want to say to our good friend, the treasurer, who's doing a great job, to Steve Grossman, that, Steve, I think you missed something. You should have checked on the endorsement record of the state reps over the last 18 years. We don't do very well. And I noticed you said that the three of us were with you. He was only kidding, Martha. At least I am. I'm only kidding. I want to thank Martha and Steve and Mary and Ryan, our wonderful DA, for being here today. And I also see a fine gentleman at the end of the table, Charlie Baker. I promise I'm not saying a word. I tried that bipartisan issue a few years ago, Charlie. It didn't go too well for me. I wish you well. So, you're very welcome. I'll see you in the parking garage on the way out, Charlie. I know how to get to New Hampshire. For a number of years with Dave Nangle, State Representative, Democrat, Seabrook, New Hampshire. So I don't know, I guess maybe there's a message of that after all these years, Mike. But I'm just going to try a couple of jokes, Eileen, before the professional comes up here. And Patty and Mick are walking down the street one day, and Patty's got a bag of donuts in his hand. Patty says to Mick, if you can guess how many donuts are in the bag, you can have both of them. Is that all right, Chet? Then you had Gallagher one morning open the morning paper and he was dumbfounded to read that in the obituary column it had that he had died. He picked up the phone, he called his good friend Finney, and he said, did you see the paper? They say I died. Yeah, I saw it, said Finney. Where are you calling from? There was a couple of guys working for the city public works department. Is Ralph Snow here this morning? Is Ralph here? It is Ralph. I don't think these guys are there any longer, but he had a couple of these guys were working one day and they would dig a hole. One guy would dig a hole and the other guy would fill it in. They were going up and down Beacon Street like a bat out of hell, and up one side and down the other side. One guy would dig the hole, the other guy would fill it right back in. So an onlooker was amazed at their hard work, but he just couldn't understand what they were doing. So he asked the hole digger, I'm impressed by the effort you two are putting into your work, but I don't get it. One of you dig a hole, only to have your partner follow behind and fill it up again. The hole digger wiped his brow and he sighed and he said, well, I suppose it probably looks odd because we're normally a 3-person team, but today the lad who plants the trees called in sick. Hey, I see Ricardo over here. He's over here to the right here somewhere. And one night last week, he was closing up Ricardo's up there in Gorham Street. And this gentleman walked up to him and he said, this gentleman approached him and he said, "Hey, excuse me, sir, could you tell me the quickest way to Burlington?" And Ricardo, without missing a beat, said, "Are you on foot or are you in a car?" And the guy said, "In a car." And Ricardo said, "That's the quickest way to Burlington." Time yet, Mike? Where can you get down? Then about 3 weeks ago, I was sitting down at the old court, and I was having a Coca-Cola. It was about noon time with Jimmy Scanlon. We were having lunch, and this guy walked into the bar, and Finbar was working behind the bar. We all know Finbar, and Jerry Murphy, the great bartenders and proprietors of the old court. This guy walked in, and he said, "Hey, I need 4 shots of Jameson right away." Finbar, boom, put them all right up. The guy went over, guzzled down all 4 shots in succession. Finbar was a little concerned, and he walked back up to the guy and he said, "Hey, is everything okay?" You know, I'm a little concerned. And the guy looked at Finbar and he says, "If you had what I have, you would do the same thing." Finbar, feeling sorry, leaned over and he said, "Why? What do you have?" He said, "About 75 cents. Recently, there was a gentleman up in New York that was in the back seat of a cab, and as he was going down the street, and he leaned over and he tapped the cab driver on the shoulder. With that, the cab driver jumped out of his seat, basically threw the car in park, turned it off, jumped out of the car and locked the doors. Well, 20 minutes later, the guy can't get out of the back seat of the cab. He comes back, the cab driver came back and he said, "Excuse me, sir, I am so sorry for doing that, but you have to understand, this is my first day driving a taxi." He said, "I used to drive a hearse for the last 35 years. Without further ado, I want to wish everybody a great, happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you all very, very much.